Jackson, then later President Jackson, that people could vote even if they didn't have property. That was kind of his big thing, which I find interesting because I was the founder of the Democratic Party, so we're considered that. So I didn't quite understand. It said in the paper that I appeared surprised. Well, I was surprised. I knew something was coming, but I couldn't quite figure out what, and I still can't figure out why. I was just told he was having a bad day. I understand that, but it was just a little bit of shock. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one question. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Does that by implication mean that the mayor thinks that 48% of the people in this country who don't pay income tax shouldn't have the right to vote?
Well, maybe that's in there, but I think that was solved when President Jackson was elected. I think that's kind of been addressed some time ago. Yes.
That every time you buy a tank of gas,
sales tax.
You use your cell phone, every time you go to the grocery store, you're paying taxes.
Right, sales tax. That's correct. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Real simple question. I can't question his motives, but has he apologized to you directly or indirectly?
Well, one of his people in his administration said he was having it because I kind of asked about it, said he was having a bad day, and I kind of left it at that. I didn't press for that or anything like that. I haven't pressed for that or anything like that. Not that I'm aware of. If something was sent out there, I haven't gotten it. But like I said, he was having a bad day, and I just, well, this is a learning opportunity or a teaching opportunity. Let's use this as an opportunity. It ties in historically pretty close. I would have done it a month later would have made more sense, but it's close enough. So about 213 years ago, if my math is correct, from 1789 is when Madison started the process rolling on the Bill of Rights. So
you should challenge him to a duel.
No, I think we kind of solved that with Hamilton and Aaron Burr. I think they started outlawing duels. So I think that history duel. Oh, all right.
Aaron Burr. Thank you, Jeff, for all you do and all the time he gives. Dan was going to say something about Dogwood Parade, but I think we covered that. Where is it? One more. Oh, he's got more.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
For those that do want to walk in the parade, but they don't want to walk with the Fair Tax group or the GOP group, there's a young lady named Shirley Bradley who is starting an Adams County constitutional carry effort, and she has gotten a float number 130, which starts at 36th in May. She's asking for anybody that's interested in supporting Second Amendment and concealed carry, a referendum potentially in Adams County, to contact her and maybe walk in the parade with her. She has 10 people signed up now. She could certainly use some more people to carry signs and so forth, but it all ties in with this Second Amendment theme of tonight, so I thought I'd bring it up. Shirley Bradley. The rendezvous is around, well, they said 8 o'clock, but I think that's way early for the end of the parade. If you show up at 9, I'm sure you'll be in fine shape. But I've got her contact information back there. If anybody's interested in walking in the parade with her, get a hold of me and I'll get you in touch with Shirley. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Danny. All right, Mr. I wrote your name down, I couldn't forget his name. Kevin Rankin, come on up. He's going to tell us about our speaker.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, all right. A little bit before I introduce the speaker, there are some of us on the county board. We are working on a similar project that the... now can you hear me? Okay. We are working on the county board on a similar project that Pike County has just passed back in March. And we'll hear more about that. Tonight we have as our speaker Dr. Dan Mefford. He's spent the last 35 years as a practicing chiropractic physician in Pittsfield. His patent inventor, he's a writer, and a speaker. And he's also spent the last 25 years plus as a Boy Scout leader. Philosophically, a libertarian and classic liberal in the Founding Father sense. Dr. Dan Medford.
Thank you, Kevin. It'll take that just a little second to get going there, probably. Bring it down. We are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure these rights, let's hope that thing starts. And to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Now, what did I just say? We are endowed with certain rights. And what's the reason government is established? Did you hear it? To secure the rights. Okay. Did it say anything about public safety? Didn't say anything about that, did it? So, okay, I'm going to tell you a little story about a young man quite a few years ago. And his bride, they were traveling through the snowy range mountains of Wyoming. They'd been out there 10 days. And in the process, they'd had a great time, done a little fishing, done a little camping. It was about the last day, and they had to head back to Illinois stand. But in the way they went was through Colorado stand, and it was an interesting trip. About 25 miles into Colorado, coming down south out of the snowy range through the 12,000-foot peaks and moving towards Trail Ridge Road where we hit 12, 13, 14,000-foot peaks. Ran into a roadblock. And the roadblock was put up by not the Gestapo, but the Fish and Game Department of Colorado. And the Fish and Game Department wanted to go through everybody's vehicles. And there was a pretty good little line, and the one ahead of this young man was a little travel trailer, somebody's little home away from home. And the the Fish and Game were going into this trailer. And they were snooping around, and pretty soon one came over to the young man and rolled down his window and wondered what was going on, you know. And he said, "Well, I see you have fishing gear in your car. And we are Fish and Game, and we're checking to see if you have any fish in your cooler." The young man said he just packed his stuff for the trip home. I said, "Where's the fishing gear?" He said, "Well, I know you've got some." "Okay, fine. Well, don't you need a search warrant to get in somebody's car?" The young man didn't know his rights. You guys know your rights?
Yes.
The young man didn't know his rights. I said, "Well, I think you got to get a search warrant or something to go through somebody's car and vehicle, don't you?" "We can go through it, but we can get a search warrant." Well, the young man and his wife had to be back to college on Monday. This was Saturday. "Well, okay, we'll let you do it." So the officer gets in on the right side, it's in the back seat, lifts the lid. And there's only about 3 inches of ice and water in there, a little bit of butter, and practically nothing. Wasn't any fish in there. And he started to stick his hand down in there and stir through it. The young man said, "Don't put your hand in that cooler." So he took his hand out and he got out. He could see there wasn't any fish in there. And he said, "You folks just head on back to Illinois and just don't bother coming back." The young man said, "We'll go wherever we want to across this great land. It is still free in spite of you and the rest of your Gestapo." Changed the young man's life. All the way home, he's cussing himself. Felt like he'd been raped. I let these people run over me. I should never have done that, right? That was me and my first bike. It was a hard lesson in a way. Not nearly as violent as many people have. But it changed me, and I came home and I began a study. I wanted to learn what my rights were. And that's how that came about. I've been studying off and on ever since. Tell you about Mary Shepard. Anybody heard about Mary Shepard's case here in Illinois? Some of you have, some of you haven't. It's on its way to the 7th Circuit. It's in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals right now, along with the Moore case. They've been combined. I'll tell you about Mary Shepard. On September 28, 2009, she was working with another elderly lady in the church that she worked at. Bad guy comes in the door and beats the crap out of him. That's why I'm going to state it. Put in here and killed him. Broke the bones in her face. 4 skull fractures. She had crushed vertebra. She had shattered teeth. Concussion. Rotator cuff. Both arms. Mangled arm. Lost the hearing permanently in her left ear. Suffers blinding recurrent headaches. This young lady, at 68, held a license to carry in Missouri and held a license to carry in Pennsylvania, and they were good in quite a few other states, 30-some other states. But in her home state of Illinois, Stan, she had to be helpless. She had to be defenseless against a bigger opponent. She had no equalizer. Eventually what she did was sue Madigan. That's a good thing to do. She had a lot of help. It's expensive to sue the state of Illinois. You can't win in City Hall, but I think she may win this. In Illinois, there is a complete ban on the fundamental right to carry. We're going to learn about this right tonight. There's lots of rights, and this gentleman says he's going to talk on the right to free speech at some point. That's great. We need to know and understand our rights. Hopefully that case is going to turn Illinois on its ear. I'm not a super friend of concealed carry as they want to practice it now, as they want to put it on. You would still have to beg permission of the government to get it. That's a fundamental right. Do we beg permission to speak freely? No, we don't have to do that here. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the constitutional carry of arms. The good book says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Well, we are the guardians of the foundation. Like a bunch of groundhogs, where's the farmers in here? John Brady, are you a farmer or not? I don't know. Get groundhogs, get under the corner of the concrete in these little sheds, and guess what? The concrete breaks and it goes down. We must be the guardians of the foundation. They are not indestructible. A well-made foundation, it's made of a couple things. You got a good footing. It's usually use 5.5 or 6 bag mix. You're going to use plenty of rebar. Then they're going to have a little wall that sits on top of that footing. And it needs to be strong stuff too, because it's going to carry the weight of the whole building. There's what a building looks like with inadequate foundation. Had a little problem there. Had a little problem. Now take a look at this one. There's the footing and foundation in that. See them little tubes? They go down on the ground, anchor that building to the floor, not into the ground. I'm blocking everybody. Yeah, how's that for a foundation? The nice thing about it, there's more buildings. You can get an apartment to rent in there, no problem whatsoever. So what are the foundations of our liberty built on? They're built on our founding documents. And the first one is, somebody shouted out,
Declaration of Independence.
Thank you. Declaration of Independence. The next one is going to be the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. We're going to discuss those in a little bit of detail here tonight. Okay, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. A little bit repetitive. You can't repeat it enough. And the rights are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's just a general description. But the important thing here is that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. That's what we're going to discuss. Without that, we're going to have a little pop quiz. So, what is the primary number one function of government?
Secure these rights.
Not the fight on the war on poverty. How about the war on drugs?
Exactly.
Fight the war on terror.
Exactly.
The war on the environment.
Exactly.
How about the war against bad employers with OSHA and issue speeding tickets? It's not part of it. Create welfare solutions, provide for the public health.
Because those don't solve the problem.
Yeah. Provide for Medicare. Oh, don't touch that. Uh-oh. That's not its job, right? But we're in a trap, are we not? We got to deal with it. The primary function of government is to secure our fundamental God-given rights. That's what it's all about. Let's talk a little bit about the Pilgrims. That goes back a ways. What did they come to America for? Are you sure? I thought they came for public safety and better health and better streets and lower taxes. What?
Religion.
Oh, boy, I don't think that was right. It came for a measure of liberty, didn't they? Wanted free exercise. What were they willing to pay for that?
Life.
Their life. Absolutely. They're willing to pay for their life. What's liberty cost? Blood. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Okay, the Bill of Rights contains the enumerated rights. You hear the term enumerated rights and then the non-enumerated rights. The enumerated rights are the ones that are listed in the Bill of Rights, okay? That's the difference. There are many others besides that. Well, let's look at the First Amendment. Free exercise of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peaceably assemble, freedom to petition the government for redress of grievances. Freedom of speech. What if we had a freedom of speech ID card? Okay, that'd be good, wouldn't it? I mean, what are we doing here tonight? We're having a little talk and a little, you know, there's something else there. There is, I'm seeing stuff you guys aren't seeing, sorry. So, you got freedom of to peaceably assemble, right? Which is what we're doing here tonight. So, freedom of speech. We ought to have freedom of speech ID card. But of course, you couldn't exercise it in Illinois if you made it like the gun deal, because unless in the public, you'd have to only do it in the privacy of your home or private property. We might be able to do it in here, but as soon as you step on the sidewalk, you have to put a piece of tape on your lips. Okay, you got to encase the weapon in some kind of case, right? Okay, so moving right along. We're not going to spend much time right there. Third Amendment, no quartering of shoulders in time of peace. Fourth Amendment, protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. Fifth Amendment, right to due process, no double jeopardy, no self-incrimination. Eminent domain is in there. We can't spend much time on it, I'm sorry. Trial by jury, rights of the accused in the Sixth Amendment. Confrontation of accusers clause, speedy trial, public trial, right to counsel. Notice that NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. That's where they can throw you in jail and throw away the key as long as they want to, if they accuse you of being a terrorist. None of this. You don't get any of this. A big X through that. Okay, moving along. Seventh Amendment, civil trial by jury. Scratch that with the National Defense Authorization Act, okay? Eighth Amendment, protection of rights not specific. Oops, I skipped on to the ninth, didn't I? Okay, well anyway, that's more of that. I don't want to stop there. But anyway, the protection, the Ninth Amendment is a very important one. We need to just hit that just a second, if I can get it back there. There it is. Protection of rights not specifically enumerated. Remember that word, enumerated, in the Constitution. Somebody name a non-enumerated right. They're real easy, but they'll fool you. How about the right to travel? The right to work? The right to choose your own bride, if she's willing to have you. The right to procreate. Right? There's gobs of them. There's hundreds of them. Lots of non-enumerated rights. Okay, keep that in mind. The 10th Amendment, powers reserved, powers of the states and to the people. That's powers reserved. What we did as a people was we granted to the federal government in Article 1, Section 8, certain powers. Beyond that, they couldn't do it. Is that right?
Right.
That was limited powers. Well, you give them a little bit and look at what they took. Okay, so pop quiz number 2. What is the true function of government? Somebody help me.
Secure the border.
To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. These right on the borders, that's one of the functions. What's the primary function of government? To secure our fundamental rights. That's the number 1 function. Does it have a function with public safety? Yeah, it's got a function there. It's got a number of functions. There's like 28 of them, right? Listed in the Constitution, and the states have even more, right? But what's the number 1 function? It says in our Constitution, right? To secure these rights. And that's what's getting trampled, is the rights. Okay, but Illinois, of course, it's different, right? What does the Illinois Constitution say? Let's take a look at this. Now this copy, I like this copy. If you can get it online, okay? That's the way I got it. 1970 Illinois Constitution, annotated for legislators. Okay, and the Bill of Rights is at the front. Article 1 is our Bill of Rights. Very easy to find. Open it up. Article 1, that's the list of our Bill of Rights. They list 24 of them. And in there, we should probably find out what the purpose of this government is in Illinois. It says, all men are by nature free and independent, have certain inherent and inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and, believe it or not, the pursuit of happiness. Now, what do you suspect might be the next phrase? Oh yeah, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So what is the primary, number 1 function of Illinois government? Anybody? To secure our fundamental God-given rights. Now, who made all this stuff up? It was our founding fathers, right? They had been ground under their heel by a king. He didn't pay any attention to them. They put him in jail for no reason. They had these officers that went around, the bureaucrats, you know. They sent hither swarms of officers. That doesn't happen in Illinois, does it? Swarms of officers?
It does.
Oh, it does. It does, yeah. And OSHA? That's the feds, right? Okay, I'm going to go really fast through here, so hang on. Okay, Article 1, Section 2, due process. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, property without due process. I'm going to skip through them. Free exercise of religion. I'm going to have to look because this thing's going slow. Free exercise of religion. Okay, I'm not going to discuss it too much here. Keep it in mind. Section 4, freedom of speech. All persons may speak, write, and publish freely. How about Section 5, right to assemble and petition? The people have the right to assemble. What are we doing here tonight? Assembling, right? Are we petitioning? Well, not really. We're talking about petitioning. Okay? Searches and seizures. The people shall have the right against unlawful searches and seizures. That's number 6. Now we're going to do a little fast forward thing, because we're not going to try and cover them all. We'll get to the right to arms. Let's read this one. Subject only to the police power, the right of the individual citizen to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? What do you think of that? Let's look at it here. Let's look at it. Excuse me here. Excuse me. Subject only to the police power. Okay. Let's look at it really close. What does that mean? The police power. Anybody know what that is? It's the power of the legislature to make laws. It describes the basic power of governments to make law. That's our state legislator. That's who has the police power. That could be really confusing. We think, no, it's the cops. No, it's not the cops. That's the power of the legislature. It's tricky language there. Okay, I'll go to the bottom here. A fundamental, inalienable right endowed by our Creator. Let's take a look at what an inalienable right is. We need to understand words. Words have very important definitions. An inalienable right is a right that cannot be transferred or surrendered, especially a natural right. You just can't give that up. It cannot be stolen from you. It's not supposed to be stolen from you. None of your property is supposed to be stolen from you. Okay, Now, we're going to take and go back to the beginning. And think, oh my gosh, he's going to repeat. Yeah, I am. I'm going to repeat. But we're going to have a little fun with this. Do you remember that little phrase that says, subject only to the police power? Let's look at Article 1, Section 1, subject only to the police power. All men are by nature free and independent, have certain inalienable rights, okay? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? Subject only to the police power, though, right? How's that sound to you? To secure these rights, subject to the police power, right? Governments are instituted among men. How does that make you feel? Let's think about that a little bit. Due process, subject only to the police power, the power of the legislature, right? No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. Does that do anything for you? Does that make you feel pretty good? That doesn't make me feel very good at all. Get a little rage going here. Freedom of speech. I love this one. Windier in a sack full of salesmen I am. I was born that way, couldn't help it. Subject only to the police power. All persons may speak, write, and publish freely. But if we had that in there, we might be able to say, well, you know, there's certain things that are politically incorrect. And you know, we need to guard the speech a little bit. And you know, you show up at that, what's that place in Quincy up there? Meets at the Turner Hall, right? To peaceably assemble. You know, they're kind of extremists. Are they extremists? Are you an extremist, Annie? She better believe she is, right? We got a situation where if they were to tuck that little phrase on all those, all of a sudden they would have the police, they would have power over what we do right here tonight. How's that make you feel about that? You feel like you've been tricked? You feel like that just a little bit? Okay, one more. Searches and seizures, subject only to the police power. The people shall have the right to be secure in their houses, persons, papers, and effects. You get the point. We won't do them all. But that little phrase, is that constitutional? Does that meet constitutional muster? Can it possibly? Doesn't. They snuck that in there. I got a couple more slides on how that was done, but I wasn't going to cover that tonight. So let's do a little quick review, okay? We got the U.S. Constitution right here, Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Very simple. We'll cover the first phrase in a little bit. Just keep in mind, this is the operative clause. Illinois Constitution Bill of Rights, subject only to the police power, the right of the individual citizen to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I got my son Carson here tonight. Oh, don't embarrass me, he says. Sitting right there, he's kind of a little feller. Anyway, he's got an American history teacher. And you can't believe where this fella's from. Can you believe he might be from Chicago? He came clear down to Pittsfield with the unwashed. And we are a little crude down there. Yeah, we do change our shorts usually, at least every so often. Anyway, you know, this American history teacher, he seems to think that the reason the Second Amendment is stated the way it is that gives the right of the military to keep firearms. Is that a correct reading of that, would you think? Oh, okay. All right. So Carson comes to me, he's concerned about it. He says, Dad, I kind of argued with him on it. He says, that's not right, is it? And I said, oh, no. So what we do, though, we don't argue too much. What we do is we back our stuff up with facts. And I asked Carson, I said, well, did he show you anything to back that up? Well, probably a textbook. It's probably in the book, you reckon? I'll bet it is. So let's not do that. Let's go to Heller. Or is everybody familiar with Heller? Washington, D.C. versus Washington, D.C. Creppy is over there. That was, there you go. There's the case. Washington, D.C. Heller wanted to have a gun in his home in Washington, D.C. Well, you don't have guns there, especially handguns. So he sued to get his rights. And here's what the Supreme Court held. I'll read it to you word for word. The Second Amendment protects an individual right, an individual fundamental right, to possess a firearm unconnected with service in the militia. Now, does that sound like that's a must to do anything with the military? No. Unconnected with service in the militia. To use that arm for traditionally lawful purposes.